In the quiet town of Willow Creek, Montana, two brothers Daniel and Eli Grayson find their bond tested when they both fall in love with the same woman, Savannah Blake, a warm-hearted schoolteacher with a painful past. Daniel, recently returned after years away, tries to stay out of the way when he learns Eli has been courting Savannah. But unspoken chemistry brews between Daniel and Savannah, threatening to unravel the brothers' fragile reunion. When Eli proposes and Savannah turns him down, old wounds resurface. The truth slowly emerges. Savannah is still haunted by the death of a former fiancé back in Arizona. As she begins to open her heart to Daniel, a threatening message reminds her that the past isn't done with her yet. But love, forgiveness, and family ultimately win. Eli, choosing to honor his brother's happiness, steps aside. In the end, Daniel and Savannah find peace and a future together, while Eli proves that real love sometimes means letting go. This is a story you will want to sit back and enjoy. Before we start, I would like you to subscribe, like, and comment on this video from where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. Let us begin. Willow Creek, Montana, wasn't the kind of place you left and expected to come back to unchanged. But when Daniel Grayson stepped off the dusty Greyhound bus after 7 years away, it was like the whole town had stood still, waiting for him. The same rusted pickup trucks lined the gas station. The same wooden signs hung crooked outside of Murphy's Diner. And the same white steeple of the town church pierced the cloudless sky like a stubborn memory. Daniel, 33, broad-shouldered and quiet, carried the weight of more than just a duffel bag. He was coming home for one reason: to rebuild what he'd lost, the bond with his younger brother, Eli, now 27. And the only family he had left after their parents passed. Eli was the golden boy of Willow Creek, always had been, the kind with an easy smile, messy dark hair, and a laugh that made people feel seen. He ran Grayson Farm now, kept the place running through droughts and debt, and somehow still made time for Friday night bonfires and church on Sunday. When Daniel finally reached the farm's front gate, he wasn't surprised to see Eli already waiting there, leaning against the fence with a bottle of lemonade and a grin that said, "I missed you, but I'm not gonna make a big deal about it. About time you showed up," Eli said, clapping him on the back. "You look like you wrestled a mountain lion." Daniel smirked. "You should see the mountain lion." They both laughed, and for a moment, it was like the years hadn't happened. But underneath the laughter, there was a subtle tension, something unspoken. Something that had less to do with the past and more to do with someone new in their lives. She came riding up the hill on horseback just as the sun dipped low. Her name was Savannah Blake, 29, schoolteacher, newly settled in Willow Creek. Wild, strawberry blonde curls danced behind her in the breeze, and her hazel eyes lit up when she saw Eli. Daniel froze the moment she smiled. "Hey, stranger," she called out, dismounting. She walked right up to Eli, brushing her fingers against his arm in a way that didn't seem casual. "Daniel," Eli said, clearing his throat. "This is Savannah." "Savannah Blake." She turned to Daniel and offered her hand. "I've heard so much about you." He shook it, trying to ignore the jolt of something dangerous in his chest. "Funny, he never mentioned you." Eli laughed nervously. "Guess I was waiting for the right time." But Daniel couldn't stop looking at her, at the curve of her smile, the warmth in her voice, the fire behind her eyes. He didn't say much during the rest of the visit, but that night, lying on the creaky bed in his old room, he realized the truth. He was already falling in love with her, and Eli was too, and Savannah didn't even know. The next morning, Savannah dropped by the farm with blueberry muffins. Eli was out in the pasture, so Daniel met her at the porch. They really talked for the first time, and just as she turned to leave, she looked over her shoulder and said softly, "You're not what I expected, Daniel Grayson." "Not at all." Daniel watched her walk away, heart pounding. Inside the barn, Eli had seen the whole thing. The morning mist still clung to the pastures when Daniel saddled up Thunder, the old stallion that had been his favorite as a kid. He rode out before breakfast, needing distance from the house, from Eli, from her, but no amount of distance could quiet the memory of Savannah's voice the night before. "You're not what I expected, Daniel Grayson." Not at all. She had said it with a curious smile, as if something had shifted between them, something she hadn't meant to admit, something Daniel wished he could forget. Back at the farmhouse, Eli leaned against the barn wall, arms crossed, his eyes unreadable. "You two looked cozy yesterday," he said as Daniel unsaddled the horse. Daniel didn't answer right away. "She's kind. She's more than kind. She's special." Daniel nodded slowly, avoiding his brother's gaze. "Yeah, she is." There was silence between them, long and tight, the kind that fills every space with tension. Eli broke it first. "I was gonna tell you about her. We've been seeing each other for about 4 months now. Nothing serious, just talking. But I've been thinking of asking her to make it official." Daniel's hands froze on the saddle strap. "That fast?" Eli looked up, a little defensive. "Yeah, that fast." Daniel gave a small nod, like it didn't gut him to hear it. Later that day, Daniel took a walk down to the creek, the same place their parents used to take them fishing. He sat on the worn dock, tossing pebbles into the water. That's when he heard footsteps behind him. Savannah. She wore a flannel shirt knotted at the waist, boots still damp with dew. She sat beside him without a word, eyes watching the rippling water. "You've been quiet," she said after a moment. "Ever since I met you, I've felt this wall. But then, yesterday." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Yesterday was a mistake." Savannah turned to him, confused. "Was it?" He didn't look at her. "You're with Eli, I'm not with anyone," she said, softer now. "We've talked. We've gone out a few times. He's sweet, steady, but I haven't made any promises." He finally met her gaze. "He wants to. He's serious." Savannah's brows drew together. "And what do you want, Daniel?" The question hung between them like fog in the trees. His jaw tightened. He stood abruptly, turning his back to her. "I want my brother to be happy. But what about you?" He didn't answer. That night, Eli stood on the farmhouse porch, clutching a small velvet box in his hand. Inside was their mother's engagement ring passed down through generations. He was going to propose. From the tree line, Daniel watched him silently, a war raging in his chest. Just as Eli walked toward his truck, headed to Savannah's cottage down the road, Daniel whispered into the wind, "Please, don't say yes." The sun had set behind the mountains, casting a golden hue over the road as Eli's truck rolled toward the edge of town, toward Savannah's cottage tucked among the cottonwoods. The ring box sat on the passenger seat beside him, trembling with the weight of everything it meant: family legacy, future dreams, and the heart of the only woman he'd truly imagined forever with. Back at the farmhouse, Daniel sat on the porch swing, a half-finished whiskey in hand. The wind carried the scent of pine and hay, but all he could feel was that tightening in his chest. He shouldn't have let Eli go. Should have told him the truth. Should have told him that the connection he had with Savannah wasn't just a moment. It was something real, something alive. But instead, Daniel stayed silent. Just like always, Savannah opened the door that evening wearing a faded hoodie and leggings, her hair up in a messy bun. She wasn't expecting anyone, especially not Eli, standing there with flowers in one hand and something hidden behind his back. "Hey," she said with a surprised smile. "This is a nice surprise." Eli chuckled nervously. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything." "Nope, just grading papers and listening to the rain." She stepped aside. "Come in." The cottage was warm, filled with the scent of cinnamon and old books. Eli took a deep breath and glanced around, then turned back to her. "Savannah," he began, rubbing the back of his neck. "You know I'm not great with words. Never have been. But since you came into my life, things have felt clearer, like I've got something worth waking up for." Her smile softened, but she said nothing. "I've been thinking about the future, and I want you in it." He pulled the small velvet box from behind his back and opened it. "I know it might seem fast, but I don't want to wait anymore." Savannah's breath caught. Silence filled the space like thunder. Her hand hovered over her heart. "Eli." Back on the farm, Daniel was packing, throwing jeans and shirts into his duffel like a man on the edge of running. He couldn't stay and watch the woman he loved become his brother's wife. It wasn't just painful, it was unbearable. But then headlights swept across the driveway. Daniel paused. The door burst open. Savannah stood there, soaked from the rain, her eyes wide, wild, and glassy. She looked straight at him. "I didn't say yes," she whispered. Daniel froze. "I couldn't." Before Daniel could respond, Eli's truck pulled into the driveway behind her. The door slammed. Eli stepped out, confusion on his face, then anger. "Savannah?" he called out. "What the hell is going on?" She turned toward him, lips parted, trembling. Daniel stepped forward, between them, and for the first time in their lives, the brothers stood on opposite sides of the same love. Rain tapped gently on the tin roof of the farmhouse as Eli stood frozen in the driveway, staring at the scene before him. Savannah, soaked to the bone, standing far too close to Daniel, whose expression was unreadable. Eli's voice was quiet, but sharp. "Someone wanna tell me what's going on?" Savannah stepped back slightly, guilt flashing in her eyes. "Eli, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't come here to what?" Eli cut in, his jaw clenched. "To tell my brother you couldn't marry me? Before even telling me?" Daniel moved forward, calm but firm. "It wasn't like that." Eli turned on him, eyes blazing. Don't act like you haven't been hiding this. You've barely been back a week and already." "Eli, stop," Savannah interrupted, voice shaking. "This didn't start with Daniel. It started with me. You're wonderful. You've been nothing but good to me. But I can't give you something I don't feel." Eli's fists curled. "But you feel it for him?" Silence. The only sound was the soft patter of rain and the distant cry of a mourning dove. Savannah nodded. And just like that, Eli's world cracked. They didn't speak much the rest of the night. Savannah left quietly. Daniel stayed on the porch, while Eli disappeared into the barn, the one place that had always been his refuge. Daniel followed hours later, finding him sitting in the corner with a beer and a 1,000-yard stare. "I didn't plan this," Daniel said. "You never do. You just show up, and life rearranges around you," Eli muttered bitterly. Daniel sighed, lowering himself onto a hay bale. "You're right. I've messed up a lot. But I wasn't trying to steal her. I tried to stay away. But you didn't," Eli snapped. "Because deep down, you wanted her to choose you. And she did." Daniel didn't deny it. A long silence settled between them. Then Eli stood. "You know what the worst part is? I was ready to give her the one thing Mom left us. The ring. You remember what she used to say? That it was for the one who found the kind of love that lasted." Daniel swallowed hard. "I remember." Eli gave a hollow laugh. "Looks like it wasn't me." The next morning, Daniel found a note taped to the fridge in Eli's familiar handwriting. "Going up north to the cabin for a while. Need space. Don't wait up." Daniel stared at it for a long time, guilt gnawing at him like winter wind. Later that afternoon, he went to Savannah's cottage. She opened the door slowly, a nervous smile tugging at her lips. "Hi." But Daniel's face was grave. He stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Savannah blinked. "Is this about Eli?" "No," Daniel said, meeting her eyes. "This is about us, and what we can't do right now." Her heart dropped. "Daniel, I love you," he said honestly. "But I won't build anything on top of my brother's broken heart. Not yet." Savannah's eyes filled. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying," he looked down, pain thick in his voice, "maybe we hit pause until I make things right with him." 3 weeks passed. Then came the knock at Daniel's door. He opened it to find Eli, eyes tired, clothes dusted with trail dirt. "I've been thinking," Eli said, "about everything." Daniel braced himself. Eli looked him straight in the eye. "If you're still in love with her, then there's something you need to know before you take another step." Daniel's chest tightened. "What is it?" Eli's face darkened. "She's not who you think she is." The porch light flickered between them as Daniel stared at Eli, heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" Eli stepped inside, dusting off his jacket. "Savannah, there's something she didn't tell either of us." Daniel's fists clenched at his sides. If this is about trying to make me walk away, it's not, Eli cut in. It's not jealousy or bitterness. I'm over that. He hesitated. But I met someone while I was up north. A woman named Kate. She used to work with Savannah, back in Arizona. Daniel's brow furrowed. Savannah never mentioned Arizona. Exactly. Eli's voice dropped. She moved here after something went wrong back there. A fianc. A wedding that never happened. Daniel's jaw tightened. Why does that matter? Eli sighed. Because according to Kate, Savannah left without saying goodbye. And the guy she was supposed to marry? He didn't walk away. He died. 2 weeks before the wedding. Car crash. She's been carrying it ever since. Daniel stepped back, stunned. She never told me. She never told either of us. And I get it now, Eli said. She's not running from the past, she's still grieving it. Maybe that's why she couldn't say yes to me. Maybe it's why she hesitated with you. Daniel sat down heavily on the couch. The pieces started fitting together, the distant look in Savannah's eyes. The way she hesitated every time the word future came up. She wasn't being dishonest, she was haunted. The next morning, Daniel drove out to her cottage, gravel crunching under his tires. She was outside, trimming the rosebush that bordered the fence. Her face calm, but her eyes told another story. Eli came by, Daniel said softly. Savannah didn't flinch. I figured he would. He stepped closer. Why didn't you tell me about Arizona? She wiped her hands on her jeans, gaze falling. Because I didn't want to be that girl, the one who can't let go of the past. You're not, Daniel said gently, but you have to stop carrying it alone. Her eyes glistened. He died, Daniel. 2 weeks before we were supposed to get married. One stupid rainstorm and a slippery curve. And I ran here thinking I could bury it all. Daniel took her hands. But you don't have to keep burying it. Not with me. A tear slipped down her cheek. And Eli. Daniel gave a quiet smile. He knows. And he let me go so I could choose you. Now, it's your turn, Savannah. Savannah looked up at him, something flickering in her eyes. I'm scared. I know, Daniel whispered, brushing a thumb against her cheek. But love's worth being brave for. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the porch rail. She glanced at the screen, then gasped. Daniel frowned. What is it? She turned the phone toward him. A message glowed across the screen from an unknown number. You think the past stays buried forever? Think again. You left more behind in Arizona than a broken heart. Daniel stared at the message glowing on Savannah's phone, his pulse quickening. Is this a threat? Savannah's face was pale. I don't know. I haven't heard from anyone in Arizona in over a year. I thought it was over. Daniel stepped closer. Savannah, who did you leave behind? She hesitated. Her voice barely a whisper. His brother, Landon. After the accident, he blamed me for everything. Said I distracted Ben. Said I pushed him to drive that night. I tried reaching out, but he cut me off completely. Then I left, changed my number, tried to disappear. Daniel exhaled sharply. And now he's found you. She nodded, trembling. I thought if I started fresh, if I chose quiet, peace, routine, I could heal. But now, it feels like that ghost followed me here. Daniel took her hands firmly. You're not alone anymore. Whatever this is, we face it together. That afternoon, Daniel called Eli and told him everything. To his surprise, Eli didn't hesitate. Tell her to come stay here at the farm. Eli said, it's safer than that cottage, and we'll deal with whatever's coming as family. Savannah was reluctant at first, but agreed. The three of them hadn't shared space since the night everything fell apart. But somehow, there was no bitterness now, only understanding, growth, grace. A few days passed. The message didn't come again. Daniel filed a police report, and Savannah reached out to a lawyer in Arizona. Slowly, the grip of the past loosened. One night, Savannah stood on the back porch of the farmhouse, watching fireflies scatter across the dark field. Daniel joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. I used to believe love was about certainty, she said quietly. But with you, it's different. It's not about being sure, it's about choosing. Every single day. Daniel smiled softly. Then let's keep choosing. She turned to him, shining. Even with everything I brought into your life, He leaned in, brushing his lips gently across hers. Especially because of it. 1 year Laturth Chapel was small, white with ivy creeping up the side. Nestled just outside Willow Creek, sunlight filtered through stained glass windows as music played softly in the background. Eli stood at the altar, not as a groom, but as best man, smiling genuinely as Daniel took his place beside him. Then the doors opened. Savannah stepped forward, her gown simple but radiant, her hair pinned with fresh lilies. She smiled at Daniel, like the past had finally released her, and the future was hers to claim. When the officiant asked, "Who gives this woman away?" Eli stepped forward. "I do," he said, his voice steady, with a full heart. The brothers shared a quiet look, one of forgiveness, sacrifice, and unshakable bond. As Savannah reached Daniel's side, she whispered, "I love you." Daniel smiled. "I know. I've always known." If you were Eli, would you have let go of Savannah? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Ensure you subscribe to my channel for more heartfelt stories like this.